Well, Louis, what a cracking episode that was.
Mm.
John was going to brought some crazy insight there, and I really didn't expect that process. 6 month trial,
Yeah.
and I felt he was almost emotionally attached to wanting to see these deals succeed, but the numbers just didn't stack up. Let's dive right
Yeah,
into it. How would you approach this?
the reason why I really like that conversation because it reinforced again, Dave, the importance of thinking about the wider buying committee. And even in a smaller type business, there is always more than one person involved in the decision making process. And John, mentioned he had his senior researchers, he had his junior researchers, so
Mm.
the strategic thinkers to the users to his co-founder. So there was a lot of people involved in that process. So they weren't taking the decision lightly, right? There was also, as he mentioned, there was a lot of fear and emotion that was driving their actions, yeah, because he said these things were happening, and that in the end was what killed the deal, which we'll talk about in a moment, right? But how would I have approached that a little bit differently to sell to John and his team? First things first, I think the gap in the process was the lack of communication and education, right? And we often think, from a marketing perspective that, hey, you've generated the lead, you've got an op, marketing's job's done. And this is where the alignment piece is so important, and bringing the two together, because even though he decided to sign up for a trial, which it looked like it was more of an intense trial because it was kind of like part of the sales process. Um, there was no information that was being shared. There was no value that was being created, right? And you heard John, he's not just looking for a vendor, he's looking for a thought leader.
Mm.
Um, what killed the deal in the end was the lack of confidence they had that the product could continue to pivot to enable them to achieve their goals. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and the reality could be that the product could actually achieve that outcome, but John and his team answered those questions themselves. And we see this often in the sales process, that the buying committee has questions and they answer those questions themselves. And in some cases, they're answering them wrong. Yeah. There's a lack of information. So they actually are not creating the right relevant picture for themselves based on those questions. And they become silent objections that kill the deal.
We spoke about this before the episode, right? About
Yeah.
us ourselves starting to do a bit of multi-threading with accounts. In
Yeah.
this situation, when someone's in a trial, would this be a perfect case of trying to reach out to more than just John, and just from a place of expertise, try and share a bit of information so they know that you're a thought leader, or do you think that's
Yeah.
too much?
Well, I think in this case, and what I would have done differently, and what we do, Dave, is as they're progressing through that funnel, right, from top of funnel, and they did a great job. They created a new opportunity from a cold outreach message. Tick, yeah, right time, right trigger, right message, got them
Even
into a
landed in
conversation.
spam, and they still got the call.
Mate, fantastic, right?
Hmm.
So that's a big tick. But as they went from that first meeting, they didn't, this is the other gap. They didn't do any business case analysis. They didn't actually work with him on developing the business case. They, John and his team did it, but the actual provider didn't. And potentially they might not have actually created the right business case for them to make their final decision, because he mentioned pricing was the reason why they didn't progress. And that's really unusual because a lot of the times pricing isn't the reason why people don't progress. There's something else, right? There's a hidden objection, yeah? And that hidden objection, actually he shared it with us. It was the confidence. It was a
Yeah.
lack, they had a bit of fear in the product's capability, right? So it actually wasn't price. Yeah, if you pick that up during that conversation, it was fear that stopped him from moving forward. So this is where, again, there was a couple of key things that we would have done differently. We would have helped them develop the business case. We would have determined what were the key questions they were looking to be educated on, and we would have nurtured them with a level of content and education and checking before progressing, right? Big key, yeah?
Mhm.
Checking before progressing to make sure that they were comfortable as they progress through the buying journey. And I think the key takeaway for all of our audience listening to this, it's as your buyer progresses through the funnel, their level of education the requirement starts to change. And the message that we deliver top of funnel needs to be different bottom of the funnel. And as you're getting to that bottom of the funnel, remember, task tension starts to kick in. People start to second guess. It's that whole that buyer's remorse actually kicks in before they make the decision. So think about what could those concerns be and how do you address it through your content, through your engagement, and ultimately through the final proposal that you put on the table. It should absolutely address those concerns, and it should show a clear roadmap on how you would mitigate those concerns to achieve a certain outcome.
Louis, thanks, mate. Another masterclass reversal selling session with yourself. Another great episode. Plenty more to come out. I think let's wrap it up here. Great way to end it. And just one thing as well, just so happened to be that we've done our own Growth Forum survey. And it's this survey, it's 15 rapid fire yes or no questions that will help you, that's it, you listening to this episode, because you're in B2B sales if you're listening to us, will uncover the gaps in your selling process. So that link to this survey is going to be in the show notes where you're listening to this episode. And it's going to give you an instant report once you fill in those 15 rapid fire questions on how you can overcome those results. So click the link, go through the process. And like we do every week, we'll see you next week on the How to Sell Show.